Hey, all of you passionate game designers. Thanks for all your kind feedback and personal stories to my first video. It means a lot to me and it really gave me a sense of community. I look forward to read more of you. Before we start discussing concrete game design decisions, I want to talk with you about my general approach to game design and the technique I'm using. This will make it easier in the future to follow my videos and I can refer to this. To understand why I use this technique, I first want to explain why it's necessary. And I will call this behavior or situation the clone trap. I would love to hear if you can relate to this. In my first video about game dev addiction, I said that all gamers are kind of a game designer as we create new ideas when we play. We play and think of a feature which would make this game even better. Most people don't start developing after they had such an idea. But some people, the game designers, they do. They are driven by these creative moments. But are we building a completely new game just because of one missing feature? Even if you start a new game project just by brainstorming without any inspiration beforehand, we are always, or at least in 99% of the cases, influenced by games we have already played or seen. You are comparing your mechanics, art, music, everything to other games. And some games are influencing us a lot. Perhaps because we played them so long, perhaps they were an intense memory in our childhood, or perhaps they felt just revolutionary to us. I will be coming back to some of those games in later videos. I'm not sure if I can speak for you when I say that we all sometimes wanted to make a clone of a game. I needed some time to understand that my game ideas were not very innovative and my League of Legends game wouldn't be much better than the original one, just slightly. And after understanding that I need to be more innovative, it resulted in 2 innovative games nobody understood anymore. Because gamers play games with their existing knowledge of games and anticipate how a game should behave. If they are too weird, they lose interest. And I also had those game dev friends telling me they want to go for a Minecraft-like game, and when I asked them what they would do different, they couldn't answer. For learning purposes, it's a great idea, but why should you make a game which is already out there? I think that many of us, especially in the beginning, start our dev projects with big emotions leading us, often caused by a game we are currently playing. And that somehow is great, because this is motivating us a lot. Minecraft, for example, gives us this unbelievable feeling of freedom when we play. You can do so many things. And how much more freedom would it give us if we even could create this game of Minecraft? We could remove every boundary and add every part we are still missing in this game. It would be our world, designed by our rules. No one could suppress us. Okay, I'm getting off track. The first thing I do to not get trapped in my emotional impulse to code this new game is to take a pen and start designing the project on a piece of paper. For me, this happens very often, which is why I have always a drawing pad around me. I don't start coding in most cases, which is good. But I love making sketches and building game systems. And often these notes help me to understand that I didn't create something new, valuable, or even fun. Other times I still like my ideas, but put them on a stack because I need to finish another project first, which in most cases doesn't happen too. In other cases I pick up an idea later and add it to another project. This for me is the clone trap. You copy features or games without checking if it is giving you or others a new value. Simultaneously, for me this was the most enjoyable time of game development when I fell into this trap. Coding with big dreams is so much fun. And to fix this, now comes the part where game designing can destroy your future gaming experiences. You need to analyze and understand why you love some games and mechanics, because in the end you don't want to clone a Minecraft game. You want to clone the emotions it's creating. And that can be a negative experience if you can't stop analyzing when playing games. It could destroy your experiences if you always try to see the underlying code and the purpose of a feature when interacting with a definitively faked world. That's one example where I struggle with enjoying RPGs. Okay, I get stronger, enemies are getting stronger, I do 15 damage and later on I do 15 million damage. Man, that's all fake. But more on that in later videos too. The analysis of emotions in gaming leads me to the name therapy method. It's not a common expression, I created this name myself. If you learned about psychology or have been in therapy yourself, or you just watched a movie with a therapy session, you probably heard a question like, what did you feel? What caused this emotion? Normally it's in a negative context. When you recognize that you're suffering from perfectionism, it could be the analysis and therapy that your parents only gave you love when you did great in school. The emotion can be positive in the case you did great, as you got your A, or can be painful because you failed. So there is a stimulus causing your emotional reaction, often learned in early days. And in most cases, this is a subconscious process, in real life and in gaming. You just enjoy the game without asking why putting all the stuff in a chest feels great. But this can also be used in a positive way in therapy. For example, if you suffer from depression, trauma, or you lost a loved one, and everything seems dark and sad in life, a therapist could ask you to do something you love. Often it's difficult to find something in hard times, and then you start analyzing. What did I enjoy? When did I laugh the last time? How could I recreate this situation? Should I meet this funny friend again? Or your therapist could ask, why did you feel better yesterday? What happened? What did you do? For me, this is emotional game design. Why did I enjoy this game? It might sound trivial to you, but I want you to dig deeper, just like a therapist, and ask again and again. Let's look at an example. I haven't played FIFA games for many years. I don't like the gambling and monetization mechanics games, and I'm even not interested in soccer, although my whole family is. But I remember that I loved FIFA games 20 years ago. In our family we had some bets with little money when the World Championships took place in South Korea in 2002. Yeah, I said I don't like gambling, but come on, that's more a social event with aunts, uncles and cousins and very, very little money. It was not about the money. And in this time I was doing Taekwondo, which is why I was a fan of South Korea, who was the host of the championships. So, as I put all my money on South Korea, and they even made it to the quarterfinals, these were intensive emotions. I remember being in school during the games, and my sister and I were the only South Korean fans. Then we watched with our family, had parties. I think you know what I'm talking about. And what hooked me additionally was the competition system. These quarterfinals and the graphic of who is still in the game and who comes to the finals. They in turn reminded me of my favorite manga Dragon Ball, when Son Goku went to the World Martial Arts Championships and fights his way to the finals. And then there was the game FIFA, and what it offered me was not the great mechanics of playing a ball to the other players or the realistic shooting on the goals. It were many of the other feelings. I could create my own world championship in the game and play to the finals. I could reproduce a little bit of the tension I felt during school, not knowing if my team will make it. I remember this tension of being kicked out of a tournament, and furthermore I could identify with the country. And it wasn't always South Korea. Because we spent some holidays in the Netherlands, I decided that I'm a fan of the Netherlands now. So I loved playing with them in the World Championships. For me personally, these were the most important features in the game. And if I tried to design a game by extracting those emotions, I would think of how to reproduce these key factors for me. This doesn't need to be copied. If you look at World of Warcraft, there are factions with a big background story so that you can identify with your team or even country. You can ask yourself how and if other games implement features like that. What about League of Legends? There it is more the feeling of identifying with one hero. They created the world with countries around, even the Netflix series, and perhaps you sometimes play a team of yordles, but I never had the feeling of playing for a team or country in the game. In Age of Empires, a game around empires, you could play countries, which I never identified with, perhaps because most of them were not different enough. Probably Age of Empires was the better game, but I preferred playing Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. I loved playing as one of the factions I could identify. Sending your own droidicast to a battle felt amazing, especially after having played the action-adventure before, and I struggled hard to defeat them as a kid. But here we come to a different aspect of game design, combining different media like movies, mangas, books and games to create a living world the player wants to dive back in.
Yeah, we're going to have to stop by Pottery Barn on the way to work. I bought these Star Wars sheets, but they turned out to be much too stimulating to be compatible with a good night's sleep.
So back to the emotions of championship games, I remember Sword of the Samurai, a game on the PS2, which had this tournament feeling for me. The same feeling like Dragon Ball, or playing the Mario Tennis Championships. Stealing and mixing these emotional features can create many new ideas for new game projects or improvements of your existing ones. I think of a therapist giving you the reset for your better life. So it helped you to meet this funny friend and you enjoyed walking in that forest. Taking a bath was relaxing, so do these things. We as a game designer try to put those things together in a game. And if you need some inspiration, you can even go for games you emotionally don't like on the first view. Think of, I really don't like games with World War II settings, but these artillery mechanics are real fun. Would be cool in a fantasy setting. Or what about, I really love the game but the community is so toxic. Perhaps I can make some of these mechanics work for a single player game? And just like therapy can make you aware of good moments in everyday life and where they come up, this technique for me is interesting as a game designer too. Because if we want to be innovative, we can use every situation to extract its fun, not only those of existing games. One day I went for a walk with my girlfriend, and as we walked through the hills we saw a big bird of prey and she asked me what I am thinking. I laughed and said that I'm designing a game. Yeah, I'm so romantic. I watched this animal jumping from a tree and the movement of dropping, spreading its wings and starting to glide looked so calming, fun. It made me kind of jealous. And my next thought was if I could reproduce this feeling in a game. My ideas went around a 2D platformer with a flying squirrel jumping from tree to a tree, and I started even prototyping, but it never felt as imagined. I also always have this urge to game design when being in the mountains. Sometimes it feels like an inspiring fantasy world of Lord of the Rings, and one time I started building a prototype of a colony sim on a mountain because the rough nature with its different plants, rocks and snow felt like a challenging game as I imagined living here. But don't get me wrong, emotional reactions should not be exploited in my opinion. Our subconscious behavior or our natural programming leads to many possibilities to trick us. Gambling with gold in a roguelike game to increase your damage leads to a conscious decision if you want to do this trade. Fine, in the worst case you lose this run. If you need gambling mechanics for real money to unlock game content, it clearly sucks. Here you are forced into gambling to play the game. Or pay-to-win game forces you to spend money to compete with other players. Cookie Clicker is a perfect example for a game making use of our natural reward system for gathering and joy of increasing numbers. For me it's like a parody of most RPGs and I think it's fine, because it kind of screams at you, hey, this game is stupid, I'm tricking you. You know it's weird to enjoy games like this, but your brain tells you that it feels good. I think it's easy to say if you are using your psychological understanding for the good or the evil. If you just implement it to trick people to spend money, perhaps you are on the dark side. I know that many companies or devs need to make money, because that's how capitalism works, and they rely on using these techniques, for example in the mobile market. But is this how we want games to become? If we need to destroy gaming to make games, sounds a little bit paradox to me. What about you? Do you use emotional designing techniques? Do you remember games triggering strong emotions? Did you want to copy existing games too? Do you struggle with over-analyzing? Did it destroy your gaming experiences? In the next video I want to continue on this topic and what can happen if you dig too deep when searching for key emotions. It will be a little bit more on philosophy, psychology and ethics, but I'm very interested in what you think about these topics. So, thanks for watching and keep designing.